Alright guys, thank you for making it to episode 3 of building a derby car. If you're new to the channel, go watch our previous 2 episodes. If you're not, this is episode 3 where we're finally going to start doing stuff to build this derby car. We'd have it in the shop to start the roll cage, but my dad has a bunch of stuff going on in there. That's alright because there is a lot of stuff we can do without needing to have the car in the shop. So what I'm going to do next, we're going to pick out some metal and go take it in the shop and start cutting it up. These are going to be our fix-it plates, which we are allowed 10 of them. I don't think I'm going to cut all of them this size because they give us different choices and options of what to use. So we're probably going to do half this size, half the next. So the first size we're going to do is 6 inches by 4 inches by 1/4 inch thick. So let's grab that plate and take it to the saw. And it's not very light, it's pretty heavy. Okay, so now that we got our 1/4 inch plate on the cutting table, the rules say we're allowed a 4x6 by 1/4 rectangle or a 6x6 by 1/8 inch square. We're gonna do a couple, probably 6 of these 1/4 inch plates. I don't know how many I'm gonna use of those, so we'll just start with 6. And then if I need any of the 6x6 by 1/8, we'll cut those, and then we'll cut like the 4 leftover squares. That's where we're at, just because, let me show you. The whole shop is being taken up by metal right now. We got metal everywhere, a whole trailer in here. This whole table. We already cut all of these yesterday. We are building a handrail for somebody's house. So once this project's done, we'll be able to bring the derby car back in and work on that. But we have a ton to do before we even need to do anything on the car, like cutting this plate. I got all the parts delivered to start working on the rear end. So tag along, and all that should be in this video. So now that I've bored you to death, let's start measuring and cutting. I've gone and preset this, I don't even know what it's called, this ruler, to 4 inches. Just throw it on here. Mark 4 inches with our Super Sharpie. Check it with the tape. We are 4 by 4. Perfect. Couple more of those cuts. Alright guys, if you're ever gonna cut plate like I'm doing right here without clamping it down or laying it flat, make sure it's tucked up underneath this back plate on the saw that your saw has it. If you don't, tuck it up in there and make sure it's pushed up real good on this vice grip part. You do run the risk of losing a finger, so make sure you grab it clear back here and it's shoved up underneath that back plate. That way it can't catch and get flung, because yeah, it can be dangerous, but it cuts a lot faster and it's not as hard on all the teeth on the blade because you're not cutting through as much plate. And if you put it straight up and down, the blade likes to wander at an angle, so your cuts aren't very straight. So I always do it this way. That way the cuts are straighter and the blade doesn't get ruined. did end up cutting 8 of them, just because we're probably going to use them all. And if I don't use them all, I can give them to Clancy or some of my other buddies that are derbians. So, boom, on to the next project. Okay, I figured out what our next project is going to be. I don't have a battery box, which is another bolt-in, and I've borrowed a lot of bolt-ins, but I need to build a battery box to hold the battery in the car. You don't want to use like one of the crappy RV plastic battery boxes, which I know guys that have. Don't do it, they blow up. So we're just gonna make a battery box out of this angle iron. Doesn't look like much yet, but bear with me and let's struggle through this together. So over here, our battery measures about 6 and I don't know, what is that, 5/8 by 10 inches. And that's about what most of the batteries measure. So if we make our box like 10.5 by about 7, we should be in the clear. And if not, I guess we'll just make another one or run a smaller battery. So let's get to cutting. Okay, so there's our first cut. We want these longer sides like that, so got 3 more cuts to go. Or 4 more, I don't know. Probably a bunch because the angle's gonna end up different on all the cuts. So I'm gonna have to do 2 cuts for each side. So now we have all 4 pieces that we need for our battery box. Let's move some of this stuff around. Clean the table off a little bit, make sure it's kind of flat. Okay, so in reality, this is what I wanted to show you guys. How it's gonna end up. And that is how our battery box is going to end up. You know, we'll just cut the little burrs so it sits nice and, see, it has those little burrs right there. So it doesn't sit quite flush. And then weld it all together and we'll have ourselves a battery box. Let's keep building. Just change our cutting wheel to a flap disc. We use 40 grit flat discs around here. We don't try to use the abrasive wheel. I hate breathing in that nasty dust they produce. Okay, nice and flat so that it sits flat on the table when we're welding it back together. Done. Okay, now we'll just grind it off a little bit, make sure it looks a little nicer, because it does not right now. Just like that, with a little grinding, we have a battery box. So, moment of truth, and perfect fit. We have a little gap on the sides right here, but besides that, The only thing that snagged, it has these little ridges on the battery right here. One of those snagged, that's why I had to smack it down. But I like it. Next, we'll just find how we're gonna hold this battery up. So I think I have this all thread. So let's pull this out of here. This battery's no good, so that's why I'm using it as like my test fitter, because it's a no good battery. Okay. We will find a tape measure. Measure half of that. We got 13 inches, 6.5. Let's go drill us some holes, and they don't need to be perfectly in the middle, so I'm not going to worry about marking that. We'll just hurry and drill them. Oops, that one was a little crooked. Okay, so I found this little 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing that was already cut to the perfect length, 10 inches. So we'll just measure and get the spot for our holes, hurry and drill our holes, and we can put that on there, and that's gonna be our pipe that holds the battery down. And maybe even later on we can weld little tabs if we want for even more support pushing that battery down. Now we can go drill those holes. They end up with some little burrs on that side, and we want it to be flat. Okay, so now that bar is gonna sit right there. We'll drop it down like so. Boom. Perfect fit. So we'll make sure they're all the way there at the bottom. Let's grab our welder. Okay, I almost forgot, guys, that I told you I was going to be adding that plate to the bottom of our battery box. So this plate fits perfectly inside of there. Boom. So all we got to do is cut it to the proper length, and we'll be in business. So we'll set it in here. We will grab our marker. And now we will cut it down that line. The reason I want to go from side to side and not just inside the middle of the hole there on the plate is because I want to drill the holes out as well. And that way where the bolts are, where it clamps down to the body or wherever we end up mounting it, it's just that much thicker. So thickness is your friend. Don't let people tell you otherwise. Boom, there we got it. So now we'll just put it back on here. Square it up. think we're good to weld it. So I don't want to put too much weld inside of the battery box itself, just because I want the battery to sit flat all the way in the box. So if we do that, if we put too much weld inside there, it might stick up and not sit flat at the bottom. But on the bottom, we'll have plenty of room to put a couple stitch welds along the bottom. That should be more than enough where it's going to be bolted as well when there's actual weight on it. So now that our battery box is done, we will move on to the next project, which is, let me go find the rule book. We can weld 4 2x4 patches per seam. So some 2x4 flat strap like this. Well, this is 2 inches. I actually think this is like 1.5 inches. So you can go a little bit wider than that. 2x4. Including the window frame, or we can do 8 chains per door. I don't like any of them except for maybe the 2x4 strap. So let's go find us some 2-inch strap and cut it into 4-inch pieces, or found some 4-inch strap and cut it down to 2-inch pieces. So let's get to it. Okay, well, for the 2-inch strap, we didn't have to go very far. My dad has 2-inch flat strap. Thanks, Dad. There's another big one down at the bottom. But this should be enough. So we're just going to cut. We're going to need at least 4 per seam. So 4 times 4 on each door. So a lot of flat straps. So we're just going to cut a bunch of this. And this is just all the preparation till we can get the car in here after this big handrail project. I might upload a couple videos to show you guys what it ends up looking like. So where this metal is already 2 inches wide on the one side, this way, we need to go 4 inches this way. So, easiest way to do it when you're gonna make a lot of cuts and you don't have a stop, I just like to get my ruler, bump it up to 4 inches. Boom, right at 4 inches. So put it right at the line so it's a little bit smaller than 4 inches. There we go. Just a lot more of those to do. Okay, we just got a bunch of plates cut. Here they are. That's what we did today. Should be enough to get us going on the door seams for that car. But now, one last thing on today's video, and that is we got a bunch of parts delivered yesterday from Speedway. So I just want to make sure they're the right ones. These are all parts from Speedway for that Ford 9-inch rear end that Colton brought over the other day. Because we're going to be putting a Ford 9-inch in this car. But the 9-inch, the only good thing on it is the axle itself, the third member, all the bearings, everything gone. So we got to rebuild that whole rear end, which is going to be in one of these videos. But I'm going to need some help. So an adult's going to have to be here to supervise me for that part. Whether it's Colton or Clancy, if any of you guys are watching, I need help. I need an adult. So let's see what is in this box. Okay, so some Dorman wheel studs. I hope them are good. Hope they fit. They look big. That's a good thing. I like big. Some really oily, greasy parts. Looks like some shims and some sort of bearings for the rear end, I guess. And also, bunch more bearings. So we got all that. And a gasket. But who uses those, right? Just gotta use that black stuff that Clancy likes. And then what is in this box? It's a spool. So we got a full spool for that 9-inch. I hope it's the right one. We'll check here in a second. Make sure that it fits the axles. There's the axle. Kind of a slippery old girl. She's all lubed up. So, if I ordered the right shafts, there goes that. These already have the bearing pressed in them, which was an option. I said, yeah, press them in. And this should slide right in there. Ho! I think we ordered the right 2 parts. Now we just gotta wait for our gears and make sure our gears bolt onto this. So we got some 411 gears coming. I thought they'd be here by now, but I guess not. Well, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in and staying this long and watching through the whole thing. I know we haven't got to the action yet, like I promised, but I hope you had fun watching me build that battery box and cut out some plates for this derby car. Once again, there's not a whole lot I can do till this is all out of here, but there is a lot of, I don't want to say stupid little things, but there's a lot of little things that can happen without me needing the shop, like putting this rear end together, which is going to be a video coming soon. So tune in for that. Make sure to subscribe. So we're going to be building the rear end, and then we're going to be probably cutting more plates out. And then there's a lot of bolt-ins over here you can see behind me. If I use these pedals that Cole let me borrow, he brought them over. He was the one helping me strip the car that you saw in the last video, episode 2. So he brought these over, but they are a pair of homemade pedals. They're a little bent. They need a little bit of fixing. So there's that. I got to build a bracket for the transmission cooler. This was a fancy one with the fan. Once again, Cole brought it over. Thank you, Cole. And then I got to build a panel for all my switches. So there's still a lot to come. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.